NFL's biggest draft guru has predicted the Chicago Bears are going to get a massive return for quarterback Justin Fields. Hi, everyone. I am Andy here with Chicago Bears React, bringing you all of the Chicago Bears news both during the season and now in the off season. Before we get started, please take a moment, like, subscribe, turn on notifications. You don't want to miss anything we're going to be talking about over the next several weeks because this is going to be an exciting time for the Chicago Bears. We're talking number one pick. We're talking probably numerous trade proposals that are going to be thrown out there. We're talking new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator, free agency. There's so much excitement around this football team, and you're not going to want to miss any of the news as it's coming out. Now, it probably is well known that Mel Kiper is the biggest name when it comes to the NFL draft. He's been doing it a long time. He's a big figure in the media. Everybody recognizes him. And when Mel Kiper speaks, usually we kind of assume like he's hearing something. He's talking to scouts. He's talking to coaches. He's talking to people in and around the league so that when he puts out a mock draft, it's not just based on what he sees in the tape. It's also based on what he's hearing, right? And this past week, when talking about the upcoming draft, he mentioned he believes the Bears could and probably would get a first-round pick for Justin Fields. And before people think we're talking an end-of-round pick, he believes they could actually be in line for the Falcons pick. And he mentioned specifically the Falcons, the Raiders, the Broncos, and the Dolphins. And so if we take a quick look at some of the mock drafts that have gone out there, this one's coming from CBS Today. The Falcons have the 8th pick. You've got the Broncos at 12. You've got the Raiders at 13. So we're talking top kind of picks for players that are ultimately going to be blue chip game changers for whatever team drafts them. And so this is a pretty interesting proposition. One of the biggest things you hear from Bears fans right now about why should we stick with Fields and trade the number one pick is, well, think about the haul we could get for the number one pick, right? And so it's not just keeping Fields, it's keeping Fields plus however many players you can get in return for that number one pick. But one thing that I don't think Bears fans have really considered is what if the Bears could take Caleb Williams at number one, have their other top 10 pick, the number 9 overall pick, and still get another top 15 overall pick. That's interesting. And so, we kind of take a look at what's going on. We'll look at that in a moment, but I want to actually hone in because a lot of people have talked about that Falcons pick. It's pretty high up. There's been a lot of smoke around, whether or not it's a perfect fit, Justin going to Atlanta, the type of offense they have. Well, now Arthur Smith's not there, so we don't really know what kind of offense they're going to try to run. In addition, just because he's a Georgia kid doesn't mean the Falcons are going to bet the farm on him. They either like him or they don't. So, I wouldn't get necessarily too excited about that. But something that caught my eye today is that a front runner has emerged for the Raiders general manager, and that is Champ Kelly. Now, if that name sounds familiar, it's because Champ Kelly was actually part of the Chicago Bears front office for a time. And as Jacob Infante pointed out, he was actually with the Bears when they drafted Justin Fields. And so we're looking at a potential lock right now for the Raiders GM. This isn't just he's been interviewed. It's been widely reported that that Champ has even started to sit in on some of their head coaching interviews. And so it seems like they're excited enough about Champ that they don't want to miss the opportunity to let him to let him weigh in on the coaching search that they're conducting concurrently. So why is this interesting to me? Well, it's interesting for a number of reasons. One is the Raiders are a team that needs a quarterback. Let's be honest. Aiden O'Connell looked fine. He's a backup quarterback. I don't think the Raiders are – I don't think Mark Davis, who has that brand new stadium out there in Las Vegas, is thinking, yeah, I'm going to sell season tickets with Aiden O'Connell. Who Mark Davis is the kind of guy who's going to swing big, and he's going to want somebody who is going to get the fan base excited. Justin Fields could be that kind of guy. If Champ Kelly was a part of the evaluation under the Ryan Pace regime that Justin Fields is him, it would stand to reason he might still believe that. And he might believe, depending on who the next coach is going to be, that they might be the exact coach who can get what is needed out of Justin to take him to that next level. But another thing caught my eye, because as has been widely reported, Max Crosby is currently making it pretty well known that if Antonio Pierce isn't retained as the head coach, he will likely request a trade. And so, the Bears have some interesting options here. As I look at it, the Bears' 3 picks, or the Bears, like 3 kind of things that they'll likely be looking to address will be quarterback, wide receiver, and defensive end. Obviously, Montez Sweat is great, but you need someone to pair with. And so you can, with that 9th overall pick, you're probably going to have the option of one of the best defensive ends in the draft, or one of those kind of coveted top 3-4 receivers in the draft. And so if you are able to package Fields in a trade for Max Crosby, all of a sudden that takes a huge need off the table. Now you have arguably the most elite pass rush in all of football. Max Crosby is probably a top 5 pass rusher. You pair him with Montez Sweat, and now people are going to be worried about that pass rush. The Bears pass rush would be a problem. And so, I look at that and I say, that could be an interesting way to go about this. I think the Bears would probably have to give a little more for someone like Max. I think Max is worth more than Justin Fields at this point, but it would significantly lower that price tag. You might be able to get Max Crosby at that point for Justin and a couple of picks. And so, I look at that and I say that could be an interesting avenue. Even if that isn't the best avenue, if we take a look at where the Raiders are picking, let's say the Raiders just want to go straight up their first round pick for Justin Fields. Look at who was projected in this mock draft to go in the pick after. That is Rome Odunze, who many Bears fans would be excited about as a consolation prize to those top 2 receivers in the draft of Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Neighbors. If you were able to come away with Rome Odunze, the top defensive end of the draft, whether you're talking about the UCLA defensive end, whose name is now escaping me, Latu, or if you're talking about Alabama's defensive end, Dallas Turner, you would be able to have Caleb Williams, another young receiver to pair with DJ Moore, with anybody you pick up in free agency, and then you would still be building that in the trenches on that defensive line. And so I look at that and I say, this is a really interesting option. And so for those of you Bears fans who are still torn about the idea of trading Justin, I hope this gives a little bit of hope that trading Justin isn't just going to net, a role player. It's possible trading Justin could net a stud receiver, whether it's a number 1 receiver or, one of those T. Higgins types who's the number 2 on the team, but probably could be a number 1 elsewhere. We could be building that exact kind of team. And so I'm excited about this. I think Bears fans should be very excited about this. Let me know what you think in the comments, though. So I want to hear from you. Do you think the Bears need to go hard after a defensive end? Do you think they need to go hard after a wide receiver? What do you think is the bigger need for them? And as always, bear down.